On 6319, a world thought destined for Imperial compliance, a voice emerged that did not belong to man or machine. It manifested as fractured vox echoes, carried between static bursts, pressed into the silence of broken channels. The phrase endured through every distortion. Samus is here. The first instances were captured on Mechanicum Halo streams, looping 44 times in 4 seconds. No Auspex could cleanse it. No Lex Mechanic could stabilize it. The phrase repeated until hands bled from frantic transcription, until tongues stiffened from whispering it unconsciously. Those who labored to erase it left behind walls scrawled with the same name, written in their own blood. The 63rd Expeditionary Fleet stood at the center of this breach. Vox operators reported a pressure in the skull, as if thought itself were being compressed into words not their own. Auspex picked hollows distorted into spirals of blood-red glyphs. Remembrancers attached to the fleet recorded images of empty cities where shadows walked without form, and their picked captures degraded into static shapes that spelled only one phrase. Captain Garviel Loken of the Lunar Wolves bore witness to the first clear manifestation. His report, preserved under seal, describes the rise of Brother Xavier Jubal, struck down in battle yet laughing through a torn throat. The laughter widened into many voices, layered and simultaneous, each syllable collapsing into the same utterance. Samus is here. From that moment the dead were not still. The mortally wounded became vessels, their words replaced, their identities hollowed and filled. There was no portal, no invocation, no visible sign of warp breach. Only the name, and the presence that followed when it was spoken. Imperial record keepers attempted obliteration. The cartographic designation of 6319 was struck from every archive. Astropaths who carried fragments of the phrase were executed in sealed chambers. Remembrancer orders attached to the fleet were dissolved, their works burned, their songs silenced. Yet the suppression never closed the wound. The name endured as a seed planted in memory. Wherever it was spoken, the presence lingered. Samus is not claimed by Khorne, nor shaped by Tzeentch, nor marked by any of the powers. His nature is singular. He does not descend through ritual. He is not bound to faith. He does not require blood or prayer. He is remembered into being. Every record ends with the same voice, carried across corrupted vox channels, spoken by mouths that no longer belong to themselves. Samus is here. When the 63rd Expeditionary Fleet descended upon 6319, they expected resistance. They had brought the full measure of the Lunar Wolves to enforce compliance. Instead, they found a world without war, where the signs of habitation remained, but the inhabitants were absent. Vox units stammered with dead air. Auspex readings spiked with erratic distortions. And within the first hours, the first whispers came. Garviel Loken led his company through avenues paved in ash that had not been burned, through monuments still standing, through plazas with fountains dry of water yet slick with blood. There were no corpses. The evidence of death was there, but the bodies were gone. The silence did not remain whole. It fractured into voices carried on the edge of vox channels. At first it seemed to be broken echoes of the fleet itself. Orders repeated out of sequence, laughter without context, names called in voices already dead. But each echo concluded with the same phrase. Samus is here. The first to fall was Jubal. He should have died on the field, his body torn open by weapons fire. His brothers gathered around him to grant the Emperor's mercy. Instead, he rose, smiling with a mouthful of blood. His laughter carried with it a resonance that shook the walls. Those present swore it was not one man's laughter but a host, each voice overlapping the next until it blurred into a single unity. He looked upon his brothers with eyes no longer his own, and spoke words that were not his to speak. Samus is here. In that moment, the battlefield became something else. The dead stirred. Wounded warriors gasped, only to repeat the same phrase as their final act. Servitors collapsed, their machine spirits burning with corruption, their vox grills spitting the name on loop until they burst. The Lunar Wolves attempted to hold discipline. They fought their brother as they would an enemy, but every strike carried the weight of horror, for the face before them was still Jubal's. Every blade and bolter that found him ended only in another voice taking up the phrase. Each death seemed to provide a new host, a new mouthpiece for the same entity. The reports dissolve into madness from this point. One account speaks of warriors firing into shadows that lengthened against the light. Another describes buildings bending inward, as though the city itself strained to listen. Loken's recollections are filled with images of his men turning their weapons on one another in confusion, convinced that every voice was Samus, every comrade already lost. The remembrances assigned to record the compliance action were silenced by decree weeks later, yet fragments endured. One picked capture shows a procession of figures standing in an empty square, each indistinct, each blurred at the edges, as if refusing to be held by the lens. They are arranged as if waiting for an unseen herald, their mouths open in unison. No sound remains on the recording, only the faint distortion of a hiss. The tragedy of 6319 is not measured in numbers, for no tally survives. It is measured in silence, an entire world erased from Imperial cartography, its people gone without trace, its memory buried. Yet the name endures, for it was carried out not in documents, but in the minds of those who survived. For those who walk through its ash, Samus never left. The demons of the Pantheon are known through their patterns. Blood and slaughter signal the tread of Khorne. Mutation and disease herald the caress of Nurgle. Deception and impossible architecture betray Tzeentch. Exquisite torment and excess point always towards Slaanesh. Even the uninitiated, if they survive long enough, can learn the telltale marks of their corruption. Samus defies such measures. He is a presence without allegiance, a parasite of identity rather than a beast of flesh. He does not march under the banners of the dark gods, nor call their names in his utterances. He speaks only his own. His nature is migratory, an essence that abandons hosts once they collapse, moving like a contagion into the nearest mind or corpse. His corruption is not of the body, but of the self. Those possessed by Samus do not rot, do not mutate, do not erupt in warp light. They laugh, they speak, they continue as they were until the voice beneath the voice makes itself known. When the presence takes hold, memories fracture. Men believe they are still themselves, even as their words betray them. To stand in the presence of Samus is to question whether your own mouth might speak his name without your will. The metaphysics of his manifestation suggest an origin distinct from the pantheonic entities. Where demons of the Four are sustained by faith, sacrifice, and emotion, Samus thrives on recognition alone. Once the name is heard, once it is remembered, he has all that is required to enter. The act of knowing him is enough. The Mechanicum savants who studied the 6319 incident before their execution concluded that Samus operates as a psychic pattern more than a singular entity. He is less a figure than a formula, an equation of the warp inscribed upon the mind. Every repetition of his name strengthens the pattern, binding it more tightly into the fabric of thought until a host is seized. Inquisitorial records describe this as self-propagating invocation, a demon that does not require ritual, blood or will, only memory. Where others demand worship, Samus demands recognition. He becomes the shadow within the act of remembrance. Eyewitness reports from multiple encounters describe him as mutable, shifting with every manifestation. To one survivor, he appeared as a towering mass of shadow, his face stitched together from the features of fallen comrades. To another, he was nothing more than a man, unremarkable except for the certainty that his words carried power beyond comprehension. To others still, he remained unseen, present only in the laughter that echoed through empty halls. This refusal to conform to a single shape reinforces his nature as an unaligned demon. Bound forms belong to bound powers. Samus exists as uncertainty incarnate. He is void clothed in memory, the idea of a presence given weight. Those who attempt to contain or banish him find their rituals undermined before they begin. Hexagrammatic wards collapse. Holy seals unbind. The Emperor's name drives him back, yet never erases him. He retreats only long enough for the memory to remain dormant, waiting for another mouth to carry his name. The Ordo Malleus acknowledges that Samus is unique among the Neverborn. His resilience lies not in strength or number, but in the simple truth that he is remembered. For as long as the Imperium endures, the whisper lingers. Samus has no master but the act of being known. The Heresy consigned 6319 to silence, yet Samus did not vanish with the erasure of that world. He emerged again and again, a shadow stitched into the ages of blood that followed. His name resurfaced on Calth, woven through the battle hymns of the word-bearers who brought ruin to that world. Survivors claimed to hear it in the shattered echo chambers beneath the surface, repeated endlessly in tones that did not belong to men. During the Siege of Terror, his presence lingered on the outer reaches of the palace lines. Records suppressed under sigil lock describe warriors of both sides suddenly convulsing, seizing weapons against their own brothers while speaking the phrase. Custodian Guard and Sisters of Silence reported auditory traces in the halls themselves, laughter resonating from stone that should have been mute. Samus never strode the battlefield in a single form, yet his voice haunted the throne world. Millennia later, he was named again in fragments from the ill-fated expeditions into the Blackstone fortresses. Logs captured before disappearance show explorers arguing in unison, their words collapsing into the same whisper. Samus is here. No corpse was recovered. Only echo patterns burned into the machine spirits of their recording units. The Inquisition maintains protocols for containment, yet none have endured. Hexagrammatic seals buckle under his intrusion. Silence chambers muffle his echo only until one among the watchers repeats the name. The Ordo Malleus records speak of inquisitors abandoning investigation entirely, ordering every witness and every record burned, only to find the word etched into the ash itself. The most current measures rely upon misdirection, burying his memory beneath endless redactions, ensuring that his name is spoken as little as possible. Yet such suppression is always imperfect. The more fiercely the Imperium seeks to erase, the more strongly the pattern persists. Even silence cannot starve him. Across 10,000 years, Samus has remained not as a figure, but as a persistence. A thought with weight, a name that never fades. In the closing centuries of the 41st millennium, amid wars that consume the stars and heresies uncounted, there are still reports of the whisper. A soldier on Armageddon repeating the name before putting his lasgun beneath his chin. A vox echo on Cadia that spoke the word long after the planet's fall. A child in the depths of terror itself, drawing letters she had never been taught. S-A-M-U-S. The Imperium proclaims victory with every war it survives, but some enemies are not defeated by force. Some enemies persist, so long as memory persists. Samus is such a foe. He endures not in armies, not in empires, but in the fragile act of remembrance. The great secrecy surrounding him reveals more than any declaration could. For if he were gone, there would be no need for silence. If he were defeated, his name would not return. Samus remains. He has always remained. He will walk behind us as long as memory survives. Samus is here.